Okay, sixth graders, so I'm going to try to answer some of your questions from yesterday. First was how many cells are in the human body? So I did a little bit of research, and scientists are really undecided on what that number is, and it varies a lot based on the person. But the grand number that they think it is 37 trillion cells. So kind of more than you could ever count. What is the difference between animal, plant, and bacterial cells? Well, animal and plant cells are both eukaryotic, bacterial cells being prokaryotic. Eukaryotic cells having a nucleus, prokaryotic cells not having a nucleus. Eukaryotic cells having many different organelles that we've been talking about, and prokaryotic cells really just having ribosomes because they still need to make proteins. How does the DNA know what to do? So the DNA is a series of nucleic acids, and it has a certain order to it. And that order gives the cell the directions on how to make all the different proteins it needs to make, in a nutshell. We're going to talk a little bit more about that when we get into genetics in the next unit. How big is a cell? Well, depending on the type of cell it is. We have nerve cells that are actually really long, but most of our cells are microscopic. You can't see individual cells, at least not human cells, and really not plant cells either. You need a microscope to see them, so they're really tiny. I wanted to learn how cells do not hit each other. Well, they kind of do. Our skin cells are all piled on top of one another. Our blood cells are running into each other, so they are coming in contact with each other. So they don't have to worry necessarily about hitting each other. How do dead cells escape your body if it dies inside of you? Your body gets rid of it in our waste. It gets broken down, and that's part of what lysosomes do, and I think there was a question about that. They break it down into bits and pieces that go out with any waste products. How much DNA is in a cell? If you were to take all the DNA in one of the human cells, it would stretch out to about 6 feet long. But it's broken up into chromosomes, and it's all kind of condensed inside of the cell. So it takes up a very small area because it's really, really skinny. What does the cell do? It depends on what kind of cell. Is it a skin cell that has to absorb nutrients, has to protect the body? Is it a blood cell that needs to transport oxygen through the body? Is it a cell lining your stomach and its job is to break down nutrients? It all depends on what that specific cell's job is. Now, if you're a single-celled organism, that one cell has to do everything. It has to eat. It has to break down things. It has to, if the cell has to move, it has to move. It has to absorb nutrients. It has to make energy. It has to do everything. So depending on whether you're multicellular or single-celled, you're going to have different jobs for your cells. What does the Golgi complex do? Its main job is to package things and ship them wherever they need to go in the cell. It's been compared to things like UPS. It bubble wraps things in vesicles and sends it off to wherever it needs to go in the cell, whether it's proteins, whether it's lipids, whatever it is. Lysosomes, I kind of touched on that. They have digestive enzymes. They break things down, whether it's food or whether it's organelles that aren't working anymore. Why do cells have so many organelles? Well, cells have a lot of different jobs they need to do. Just like you have a bunch of different organs that do all the different processes your body needs it to do, cells have the same thing. So they have different organelles to focus on different jobs. So hopefully I've answered most of your questions. And today we're going to move on to why it's so awesome being a multicellular organism.